And good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Police and Fire Commission November 17th, 2021 meeting. We're in the council chambers, and this is the Police and Fire Commission for the city of Fitchburg. The first item, I'd just like to call the meeting to order. Before we get into the agenda, I would like to just read a statement. Ron Johnson, who is a member of this commission, passed away. And as many of you know, the Fitchburg Police and Fire Commission in our community, the entire state of Wisconsin lost one of its great citizens, Ron. I would just like to acknowledge his life and service with a moment of silence before we start our meeting. Okay. My time with Ron was brief, and I think he was not on the commission for long. But I got to know him a little bit, went out with him a couple of times, and he was quite the man. I know his impact in the community was very large. As a father, a citizen, a leader in the restorative justice movement, community representative, and a friend, simply put, Ron can't be replaced. As a member of the PFC, I look to him for humor, insight, and kindness. He'll be missed by myself, and I'm sure by everybody on the commission and the greater community. So, yeah, it's quite the loss for the city of Fitchburg and the state of Wisconsin and everybody that knew him. Would any of the commission members have anything to say? That's
join you in the sentiment. I didn't get to meet with him too many times, but during the process of hiring our new chief, I did have that opportunity to meet with him twice. And I was looking forward to working with him longer, so it was a surprise for me that he left us so soon. But I'm grateful that we had that little time with him, so thanks.
me too. All right.
Hey, Jeff, if I could real quick, one of the things, and once again, didn't really know him all that long, but he had a presence about him that was felt within this community and within the state. One of the things that I appreciate the most is the fact that he brought a lot of experience to the table, just from a citizen standpoint, and with that, it was the appropriate representation for public safety. So if there's one thing that I can say, it's the fact that we were lucky to have him on our Police and Fire Commission, and we were all served very well.
Thank you. I agree completely. The first order of business for tonight is just the approval of the minutes from October 21st from the Police and Fire Commission. Have the commissioners had a chance to review those, and are there any questions or comments? No.
I'll move to approve the minutes as proposed.
Second. All in favor of approving the minutes from October 20th, 2021, raise your hand and say aye.
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 Thank you, Sheena. All right. I don't see any public appearances for non-agenda items, so I don't think we have any. And so the next item of business is the report from the police department.
Good evening, everyone. As it relates to staffing, we're authorized for 52 positions. We're currently at 51. We are at the close end of our hiring process, and Deputy Chief Leahy will explain that after our staffing issues. We have one vacancy, and as I stated, no, the 5 officers that were at the Law Enforcement Academy are still in field training now, so none at the academy. We have 1 on a leave of absence, and we currently have 7 in unfilled patrol positions, and that's including the 1 that's off, the 5 on field training, and the 1 vacancy. So 7 unfilled police positions. Demographics of our sworn, 15% female, 84% male. 80% white. We have 3% African American, 13% Hispanic, 1% Asian, and 1 multiracial in the entire group. So 1% on the last two of the overall demographics of the department.
All right, thanks. Commissioners, questions?
I suspect Sheena's willing to ask the same question, but I'm curious about the numbers for the order-ins over the past month and how that's been playing out.
For the month of October, in 2021, there were a total of 18 order-ins. 8 of those were due to the homicide investigation that we had on the first weekend of the month. In 2020, there were 8 order-ins. So if you remove the homicide investigation that we handled, there was 10 this year, 8 last year. So very comparable to previous years.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Sheena, do you have anything?
No, thank you.
Okay.
That was the question I had, so thank you.
All right. Rosa? No. All right. Thanks. Can somebody take us into closed session, please?
I'll be happy to do that. Pursuant to section 19.85, paren 1, paren C of the Wisconsin statutes, the commission will move into closed session for the purpose of considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, more specifically, to make employment recommendations for police officer.
Second?
Okay. All in favor of moving into closed session, raise your hand and say aye.
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 Closed session. Thanks, Sheena. All right, welcome back into open session. And do we have any items that we need to take up coming out of open session?
I will move to approve the chief's recommendation to move 5 candidates forward into the next steps of the process for the eligibility list.
Second.
Okay. All in favor of the motion on the floor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you very much. And thanks for the report, Chief. Next order of business is report from the fire department.
All right, the activity report for the past month, we are picking up in our call volume. We look to have an over 2,000 call volume year if we're projecting out. Our inspections are picking up at the end of the year. We have a number of inspections that need to be conducted for prevention measures, and that's on task and on trend, so that we're not all that concerned with. Our staffing report is consistent with what you've seen before. We continue to have the same issues with paid on premises recruitment. We are making an effort with this agenda to address timeline for paid on call recruitment and move forward with that process. The other thing that's likely to happen, and we'll bring that to you within the next 1 or 2 police and fire commission meetings, is the intern recruitment. Typically, we like to get out to Madison College, take a look at the high school classes that are out there right now, and get an idea if there are any candidates that we want to get in front of. And that's worked out pretty well for us in the past. Working off of some of the concerns that we had at a recent council meeting with mandates and overtime, I can tell you that we had 27 overtime opportunities this last month, 4 of which were mandated, which means they didn't have a choice, they had to come in. Now, what that doesn't share with you is what the shift was, and that's one thing that I got to work on. I may have to report that in the way of hours instead of shifts, because sometimes those shifts are a 10-hour shift, sometimes they're a 14-hour shift, sometimes they're a 24. So that's the one thing that I was unable to get in front of you today, but it gives you an idea that yes, the overtime shifts continue and the mandates continue as well. One of the things that we were able to do at this last council meeting was to, in this last budget, the one going into 2022, is to fund a daytime firefighter inspector that does two things. That gives us the ability to not only do more in the way of prevention and outreach with our inspections, it allows our firefighting staff to be available for emergency response and not impact their response times. And it also gives us a light duty position that we haven't had in the past. So if we were to have a firefighter that was injured, we now have a place where we can put them to work, and it reduces the city's exposure to workers' comp claims in the way of missed time. And then it also provides a benefit to the employee if they are injured off duty. And then the other thing that came up was lieutenant promotions, which I will be meeting with our career staff here this week to give them an idea of what the procedure will look like. I wanted to do that before I brought it to the Police and Fire Commission. There is some concern about transparency and the qualifications that I'm going to require, and I felt that it was an important step to let them know what we were doing. I don't see us changing much in the way of what we did last time. The last time it was in front of the Police and Fire Commission was in 2018. You had approved the process. We moved forward with the process, and then the process was taken off the table because it couldn't be funded. So we know that the funding exists. We are going to proceed at this point to move forward with those promotions, and that timeline will be in front of you at your next meeting. As far as what we're asking for today, I don't know. Actually, there's one thing that isn't on the personnel report or the agenda for the PFC is the probationary status for what amounts to 3 of our firefighters. That also will be coming to you at the next meeting so that we can report out on their status. There are no concerns, but it's just not on the agenda, so I really can't report on it. The timeline, I'm going to make sure that I'm not speaking out of turn here.
Can I ask a question
Yep.
prior to getting to that? It's the next agenda item. The light duty officer, is the intent that to be sort of a flex among current staff? Because you had talked about, like voting workers' comp and using that as if somebody gets injured off duty.
Yep.
So that's not a position necessarily you're going to hire to do that all the time? That's something you're going to flex people into?
So it is a full-time position, so it's a 40-hour position. We are hiring them in to primarily take care of the inspections, but if we were to have an issue with staffing, they still would be able to staff a firefighting vehicle.
Okay.
So their primary role is to make sure that we stay on top of our inspections, especially as we start getting larger complexes that require us to venture further away from our vehicle when we're doing the inspection. So we'll prioritize their time with inspections that way. But they would still be available for overtime and mandates just the same. So our priority is obviously in response to make sure that we have the ability to provide emergency care, and they would still be available for that purpose. But the inspections is one of the primary reasons.
Okay.
Do you have an inspector now, or no?
All of our firefighters,
Do
our
they?
career firefighters have an inspector qualification, and they are the ones that provide company inspections at this point. There are a few occupancies, and I'll give an example, like Oak Hill, the prison, where you're not getting out of the prison anytime real soon. Even if you have an emergency, you have to go through their process. So we typically hire in for that role in order to make sure that we don't impact emergency response. So we'll
I'm
have
sorry, what do
somebody-
you mean you hired in?
Yeah, so they'll get overtime for the day.
Oh, okay,
Either that person or somebody covering their position.
okay.
And there's other larger complexes. Promega has a few larger buildings that really require the attention. That means that they're going to be out of the vehicle and away from the vehicle for a while. And then, just about any of our new manufacturing facilities, it takes a while to get in there, do the job that's required, and then get out. And the focused attention will benefit our prevention efforts.
Okay.
When was the last time we had a fire in Fitchburg?
A fire?
Yeah. A residential fire or a business
Yep.
fire?
I could get that for you, but about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. Now, we have quite a few cooking fires, but one that was actually controlled by a sprinkler system and then extinguished by the firefighters was about 2 weeks ago.
Thank you. Sorry.
Right. No, that's all right. Other questions about the staffing report from the commissioners? All right. So authorization to start paid on-call firefighter process.
So what I'm looking for is the approval to start the process. The timeline has, it will follow similar timelines that we've used in the past, but it gives you an idea that we would start that application period at the end of this month. We would we'd keep that open for a little bit. We have a tendency of having to keep that open for a little bit just so that we get it out there and make sure people are aware of it, especially if they have those certifications. So right around February, we would address the minimum qualifications. Panel interviews would happen in February. Backgrounds would be conducted right after interviews. And then in the during the March session of the PFC, we would be bringing recommendations in front of you and hope to onboard them as early as April and start their recruit training process.
So it's to start the lieutenant promotion process, that's what we're talking about?
No, that
Did I
one
miss
is
something?
the paid on premises, the paid on call process.
The
The
paid on call.
lieutenant process, we wouldn't be able to start until after we bring that to you at the next meeting.
Okay.
But soon after the next meeting, we would be starting that process. I'm going to be informing them of the intent of the process, pending your review and your approval.
And as far as the process that's currently up before us, similar characteristics are used for this that are used for the police process as well, correct? So as far as the panel, it's diverse, same rules that we have established are followed?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have a community member at the panel. So we do that for all of our panel interviews with the police and fire, and we're trying to do that all across the board with city recruitment. So yeah, the same, we'll be following the PFC rules and regulations with recruitment, best practices.
Okay. I guess I would just note that we should probably review that process too. So at the next meeting, I think we should have a review of both those processes, minimum qualifications all the way through. I mean, I like the way this is laid out, and this is exactly what we have done in the past, but I think we should just go through those.
And if you recall, we actually have an SOG that we try to follow in order to get things in front of you and make sure that we're receiving the appropriate approvals.
Yep.
So it's not independent, it's in conjunction with the rules that you have established.
Yep. And I remember reviewing that at a previous PFC.
It was a process.
Yep. There's a process. All right. Other questions from the commissioners on that process? All right. Do we have a motion on the floor? I guess, can we make a motion to start the process? Would somebody like to?
So I move that we accept the recommendation of the fire chief to start the process for the paid on-call firefighters.
Second?
All right. All in favor of approving the motion on the floor? Raise your hand.
Aye.
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 I got some feedback there. Sorry about that. Okay. Next is announcements. Are there any announcements that people would like to make?
I have one announcement. We recently celebrated our 50th anniversary, our recognition, that was published through, or promoted through Fact TV and is available for viewing if anybody wants to see that. In addition to that, even though the Administrative Services Manager is not a position that goes through the Police and Fire Commission, we have interviews tomorrow. Actually, Sheena's going to be on the interview panel for our Administrative Services Manager. We have 8 people that we're bringing in for that process to interview, and yeah, it's had I think 30 people interested in it, so we were pretty fortunate that way. Like I said, not necessarily something that you're responsible for approving. You just should be aware of the fact that those personnel issues are being addressed, and hopefully within the next month we have somebody in that position.
Yeah, Rosa?
I wasn't here at the previous meeting, so I'm going to take this opportunity to personally welcome Chief Morales, and that I'm looking forward to working with you.
Thank you very much, likewise.
All right. Okay, thanks, everybody. If there's nothing else, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
And all in favor of adjourning, raise your hand and say aye.
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 All right, thanks.
Aye.